Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're exploring a truly fascinating intersection. We're talking about the exact place where ancient history and modern nutritional science collide. We're going to look at some of the absolute oldest recorded meals in human history and analyze them straight through the lens of cutting-edge clinical research. And honestly, what we find might completely change how you view the everyday food sitting in your kitchen right now.
It's really easy to assume that optimized nutrition is this totally modern invention, right? We naturally think we're the most powerful healing meals synthesized by some brilliant nutritionist in a lab last year, or were they actually discovered thousands of years ago? We tend to bias toward the high-tech lab. But our source material today strongly suggests otherwise. It actually points to specific food combinations, literally written down millennia ago in biblical texts, that are outperforming many of our modern dietary frameworks.
There's this super fascinating science catch-up theme happening here. Think about it. Ancient populations had no laboratories, they had no double-blind trials, and they definitely didn't have peer-reviewed journals. What they had was generational observation. They just watched what kept people strong, resilient, and alive in incredibly harsh environments. Well, today, modern science is finally catching up. We have the clinical trials now, we're analyzing complex compounds like beta-glucans and immune synergy, and time after time, the modern labs are validating the intuitive, generationally tested knowledge of these early populations. So, here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with ancient wisdom and modern science, then explore gut health and immunity, move into repair and sustained vitality, discuss the power of consistency, and finally, wrap up with the master nutritional system. All right, part one, ancient wisdom, modern science, and the foundation of synergy. It's critical to understand that ancient texts weren't just poetry or spiritual metaphors. They were highly practical survival guides. And their secret weapon wasn't just individual foods, it was how those foods worked together. Just consider this desert survival combination. Desert traders, soldiers, and pilgrims crossing the blazing hot Judean wilderness relied heavily on dates. Dates give you rapid, reliable energy through natural glucose, and they're packaged beautifully with magnesium and potassium. But if you just ate them alone, you'd get a huge blood sugar spike. By stuffing those dates with nuts, like almonds, walnuts, or pistachios, they fundamentally changed how that food functioned in the body. And this brilliantly illustrates our core concept. The healthy fats and proteins from the nuts physically slow down the absorption of the sugars from the dates. It smooths out the energy release. They literally turned a rapid fuel source into a sustained, portable nutritional system way before anyone could run a clinical trial to tell them why it kept them moving. Moving into Section 2, gut health and immunity, or what we can call building the invisible workforce, because these historical meals were essentially deploying an invisible workforce of natural compounds to repair the gut and fight off illness. A perfect example of this is the cooling bowl protocol. During their wilderness wanderings, the Israelites famously longed for cucumbers, leeks, and garlic. And in a hot, arid climate, that wasn't a culinary luxury. It was a physical survival strategy. Cucumbers are 96% water, so you're getting intense hydration, along with silica for tissue repair. Combine that with fermented goat's milk yogurt, which naturally has a gentler casein protein structure than our modern commercial cow's milk, and you're introducing live bacteria that colonize the digestive tract and produce anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids. Throw in some fresh mint, which activates specific receptors to physically relax the digestive system and ease spasms. They were eating this daily not just because it tasted good, but to hydrate, rebuild the gut lining, and physically cool down their nervous system. Next up, we've got a 5,000-year-old immune protocol in a bowl. Garlic and herb lentil soup. The lentils are giving you slow-burning plant protein and the exact type of fiber that feeds your immune-supporting gut bacteria. But the real magic kicks in when you generously add crushed garlic. Crushing garlic instantly creates a powerful compound called allicin, which is just highly effective against viruses and bacteria. Then you layer in cumin to lower blood sugar and coriander to calm the gut. Finally, you finish the whole thing with olive oil. So the crucial point here is that the olive oil is making every single fat-soluble nutrient in that bowl completely bioavailable. You aren't just eating a quick lunch. You are running a highly effective daily maintenance protocol on your entire immune system. And hey, this synergy doesn't just stop with hot meals. Think about a simple grape and goat cheese plate. Fresh grapes provide these amazing natural skin and seed compounds that aid in cellular repair. You pair that with the rich probiotics of fermented goat cheese and the anti-inflammatory fats of olives. This precise combination is literally so potent that immunologists are actively studying it right now. They're finding that when these compounds are paired together, they produce compounded synergistic benefits for the immune system that neither food can pull off as effectively on its own.
Let's move to section 3, repair and sustained vitality. This is all about healing the body when everyday maintenance just isn't cutting it. A perfect example of this deep repair is the fig and almond combo. There's this really fascinating historical account of King Hezekiah suffering from a severe, life-threatening infection. The prophet Isaiah actually ordered a paste of figs to be pressed directly onto the wound, and the king recovered. And as it turns out, this is biochemically defensible. Figs contain an enzyme called phycin that actively promotes tissue repair, plus they are absolutely loaded with pectin fiber and essential minerals. Eaten together with almonds, which deliver vitamin E in its most highly usable form to protect cells from damage, this pairing acts as a complete functional multivitamin. It was a biologically perfect healing snack in a world long before synthetic supplements existed. For even deeper recovery, there was the rebuilding feast. Now, lamb carried immense ceremonial weight in ancient scripture, but its nutritional weight was equally profound. Slow-roasted lamb is packed with B12, zinc for fast healing, and a highly bioavailable form of iron. But again, look at the incredible synergy happening here. Serving that lamb with dates provides specific fruit acids that actually enhance your body's absorption of the lamb's iron. Furthermore, roasting the meat over antimicrobial herbs like rosemary, thyme, and hyssop physically changes how your body processes the rich animal fat, making it so much easier to digest. It was specifically designed to rebuild what a hard life had taken out of them. We also see this in sacred spaces. The pomegranate, for instance, was carved heavily into ancient temple architecture. Why? Because the pomegranate in barley bowl is an absolute cardiovascular powerhouse. Pomegranates possess natural antioxidant compounds rarely found anywhere else in nature that powerfully reduce arterial damage and cardiovascular inflammation. You combine that with whole barley, which contains cholesterol-lowering beta-glucans, and finish it off with olive oil and herbs, it is quite literally a targeted strike against cellular inflammation, formulated by people who simply observed positive cardiovascular outcomes generation after generation. Let's move to section 4 and see how this builds. This is the power of consistency, everyday medicine. Because ancient health didn't rely on a trendy 30-day detox, it relied on the repetitive, everyday intake of foundation foods. 10,000. That number represents the 10,000 years of evidence we have for chickpeas being a staple of the ancient Near East. A food just doesn't persist across 100 centuries unless it genuinely works. Chickpeas have an incredibly low glycemic index, and their resistant starch feeds specific gut bacteria that actively lower systemic inflammation. Dress those chickpeas with cold-pressed olive oil to protect your arteries, and add some hyssop and mints for daily antibacterial benefits. The great secret here isn't one miraculous single ingredient. Modern research continually names this exact habit, eating legumes faithfully day after day, as the single dietary habit most linked to healthy aging around the entire globe. And consider their bread. We aren't talking about modern, fluffy filler here. The daily bread of ancient laborers was dense, dark, stone-ground barley. And when they drenched it in extra virgin olive oil, it did something astonishing. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound that behaves almost identically to modern ibuprofen inside the human body. It uses the exact same anti-inflammatory pathways. So eating this daily bread and oil acted as a lifelong, side-effect-free cardiovascular intervention, steadily lowering chronic inflammation day in and day out. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the Master Nutritional System. The climax of ancient food synergy commanded specifically in the book of Deuteronomy. Now, what's really interesting about this specific combination of foods is how perfectly they all interlock. The text lists wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. Notice how every single food provides exactly what the others lack. The grains give you slow-burning energy, but they lack certain minerals. Well, the figs swoop in and fill those exact mineral gaps with magnesium and calcium. Pomegranates and grapes bring the rare antioxidants for the heart. Dates provide rapid energy and tannins. And crucially, the olives provide the monounsaturated fats that act as the master key, unlocking the fat-soluble nutrients across the entire plate. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. And this is exactly what blew nutritional scientists away. Eating these ingredients individually provides good, basic nutrition, but when you eat them together as a synergistic system, the effects are literally exponential. The amino profiles of the fruits cover the protein gaps in the grains. The anti-inflammatory compounds compound upon one another, producing a systemic effect far greater than any single ingredient could ever generate alone. It is mathematically precise, which brings us to this powerful concluding thought.
Scholars have historically read these texts merely as beautiful poetry about agricultural fertility, but modern science reveals a much, much deeper truth. This wasn't just a description of a fertile land, it was a prescription for a life well lived. These ancient populations were paying incredibly close attention to their bodies, their land, and to the food combinations that unequivocally worked over generations.
The brilliance of this ancient wisdom is that it doesn't require a multi-million-dollar laboratory to replicate. It just requires simple, whole ingredients. So looking back at everything we've uncovered today, I want to leave you with this question. Which of these historically proven ancient meals will you add to your kitchen first? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to go try one of these incredible synergistic meals today.